right, guys, we are back. This is the MMA Past, Present, and Future show. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. I'm a writer for Sherdog, and I am the executive producer of the Sherdog Podcast Network and the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, which both fine podcast network is doing this show. This is the second time doing this show. Last week we had an incredible lineup. We had UFC Hall of Famer Randy Couture. We had UFC sensation Miranda Maverick, and we had LFA standout Cody Brundage. This week, I'm super excited because we have another star-studded lineup. As you can already see, we have Miesha Tate. We also have Chris Daukaus, and we have Victoria Lee. So let's get to the first guest. She is a former Strikeforce bantamweight champion, a former UFC bantamweight champion. She is currently the One Championship Vice President. She is Miesha Tate. Miesha, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for the intro. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So this is a show that I always like to talk about the past. And one thing when I think about you is you're one of the few people who retired like early. Like most people will say most fighters retire too late and you kind of want to push people to don't. That wasn't the case with you. Like you, maybe the pendulum was like too early. And I don't mean that as an insult. Like, you had many more years of being in the top 5, top 10, maybe even the champion one time. What made you believe, like, that was the time? I think you were just 30 years old, maybe 31 when you retired.
Yeah, I think I was just 30. I was just 30. So, you know what? It was just that feeling in the last fight and just kind of everything that was going on. Like, a lot of it was my personal life, and I just felt very exhausted in my last really my last 3 fights. I would say like Holly Holm was like the start of it. And, I was able to like pull that win out and, by the grace of God, I was able to get that. But, then I got my head knocked off pretty much by Amanda, as she does to everybody. And, then I just felt like such a really awful performance against my last opponent. So against Bennington. And, I didn't like feeling that way. I want to feel alive when I'm in the cage. I want to feel like I'm enjoying the process. I want to love it. And I wasn't, and I was just so drained, so I just didn't feel like it was right for me to do it that way. It just had never been the case in my career. I had always found a way to like light the fire anyways, in spite of, and, going through all the adversity. It was kind of the theme of my career. But, everybody has a breaking point where it's just too much. And really, that's what it was. It was just too much. And a lot of it, again, was like the personal life. I was not enjoying the process. I was not having fun. It was really reaching a point of total burnout, depression, things like that. And I needed to take a step back from all of it so that I could like cut some ties and just focus on myself. And glad that I did.
So there's a lot to unwrap there because you gave me some good nuggets to really. I didn't even know where I want to go with this because you talked about one thing that obviously stood out the word when you said you dealt with a little depression, which is very hard to understand because you mentioned that you started at the Holly Holm point, and that was like your peak of your career. I mean, you've had this unbelievable come from behind victory. I think it was just a perfect representation of your career. You were always that, the girl who overcame the odds. You get the UFC title, and then, you said you felt the depression. It's just something that, you said things going on in your personal life. Did you get past those things at any time? And did that ever make you want to say, well, maybe I should come back?
There was times even during those moments, like even when I was in the thick of it, that, I would have just enough to like get me through that fight. And I was just kind of like, you kind of forged in the fire is kind of how I felt, you know what I mean? And then it just got to a point where I was like, I'm sinking, like I'm in quicksand, and like, sometimes I'm able to pull myself out of it. And sometimes, then I just felt like I was sinking and I was like, this is not where I want to be. And then, as far as like wrapping up my career and kind of like, changing the direction of my personal life, like absolutely. Like, I feel like I'm in a much more, I'm so much happier. I mean, I have 2 beautiful children. I have an amazing partner, an amazing man. I'm much closer with my family and my parents, and just everything. No, and I'm just having fun. I'm definitely enjoying the process, and enjoying training. I definitely want to do some grappling matches and things like that, and just enjoy it, just
Sure.
enjoy life. Got a lot on my plate. The kids keep me really busy. My daughter's only 2.5, and my son is only 8 months old. So I have a lot going on. And my theme for 2021 is really just to maximize each day. So I always feel like my plate is a little too full. I
Okay.
always feel like I have a little too much going on, but I would rather have that. I love the motto for me, busy is better than bored.
Yeah.
And, so I'm usually exhausted and every day I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go to bed. I'm so tired, but I feel so good. And I feel like that's just something that maybe, I don't know, maybe not everybody experiences this, but I feel like the more time goes by, as I get a little bit older, I'm kind of like, wow, time is just so essential and it's just something you can never get back. And so I just want to make the most of it. I want to enjoy my time and I want to make the most of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you seem happy, which is obviously the most important thing. One thing I've always thought about this with, we just had the Super Bowl wrap up and the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. They don't get asked what's next. They get an off season and they get to wait.
Yeah.
When a fighter wins, they just, they had an 8-week camp, 12-week camp, whatever it is. They win a championship.
What's next?
And it's
right?
like Joe Rogan's going to do that. Like, how does the moment feel? But we all know what's going to be like. Who are you going to call out? Like, it's really unfair. Like the fighters never get to calm down to like enjoy the moment. Like we always, what's next?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
our site does it. Every site does it. We do our matchmakers column. It is definitely a little unfair. So one thing I want to ask you, because it seems that, you're going to stay retired and that's great and you have a wonderful family and that's the best thing in life, your mom
Yeah.
before you're a fighter and I got to ask you, you're one of the most, one of the best female fighters ever. You're one of the most famous female fighters ever. I wanted to ask you about, it's a couple weeks old now, but Stephen A. Smith's comments. Stephen A. Smith,
Right.
ESPN, he's one of the biggest names in ESPN. He's a fan of MMA. He does the broadcasts. But he said, to paraphrase, basically he doesn't like women's MMA. He doesn't want to watch women's MMA. It's just not for him. That, to me, was something that you would hear pre the Strikeforce days. Strikeforce, Gina Carano,
Okay.
like, you know what I mean? Is it surprised to hear something like that? And what do you think of his comments?
I'm not surprised. I know there's still a lot of people out there that feel that way. And you know what? I mean, a first instinct human reaction is to be like, I don't like what he said, therefore I'm not okay with it. But, I've really grown and I really feel like everyone is entitled to their opinion and their preference. And it's perfectly okay if he doesn't like to watch women get hit in the face. Okay, he's his own man. He can have his opinions. Doesn't bother me. But as far as his professional, like he has a job to do, right? And that's
Sure.
where it's kind of like, ooh, this gets a bit muddy then. I think maybe you need to pick a different profession then, I guess. Like, what are you doing covering boxing or covering MMA? Because that's part of it. And if you're not going to be okay with watching it, how are you going to cover it,
Sure.
And I think that he has a lot of growing to do in that respect. I really do. So I think that he needs to, like, at least give an honest effort to open his mind and have, give the opportunity for perception to be changed. Because I just know that throughout my entire career, there were so many people, not just men, but I would say, a good majority probably, men that I was able to change their opinions,
Sure.
if given the opportunity. And I feel like it's kind of closed-minded. That's what I think of his statement. I think it's a little bit ignorant. I think it's a little bit closed-minded. And I said the same thing about Dana when he was like, oh, women will never be in the UFC. I was
That's
like,
a good point.
when I say ignorant is that you just don't know what you're really missing. Like, you just don't know. Like, you don't know better. And without allowing yourself to be open to that idea, you're not really open for growth. And I don't know if he'll change. And I don't know if I really have anything to say to him then. If he's not willing to, then it is what it is. But
Yeah.
it's a shame that somebody who covers the sport would have an opinion like that. I would expect that from somebody who doesn't know anything about the sport,
Yeah.
right? I could
Sure.
expect that opinion from somebody who's really old school or just does has no never watched MMA, doesn't know what the UFC is. I could see that opinion. But as Stephen A. Smith, it's like, man, I mean, this is what you do. Like, how do you not, how do you feel so differently about women doing it than men? Like,
Yeah.
you can't see that it's not really different?
Sure. So he had two paragraphs. The first paragraph was the talking about men and women competing against each other, and I think
Right.
we're all in
And
agreement.
I
Nobody
agree
wants to see,
with
yeah,
there.
nobody wants to
Wholeheartedly.
see men and female in a
Yeah.
battle. You know, training in the gym is different, grappling,
Yeah.
but actual combat, yeah. So he's right. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. It was the second
No,
part.
yeah.
The second part to me was like, that's something like we would get a quote in the Sherdog forums in 2001, not 2021. I mean,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a little mind blowing, right? I definitely,
yeah. It,
you're kind of like, wow. But I'm kind of happy in a way because I still feel like there's a lot of people who do feel that way, and it kind of sheds some light at that, women still do have a little bit of an uphill battle in this. Like, still do. I mean, there's still times, people that along the way, it's so easy to look at Rhonda, Paige, these women, Wei Lee, Joanna,
sure.
that are really successful, that are like, wow, you're so admired. But you have to realize, like, how many people across the way that those women have hit the roadblock on. Like, oh, you can't train here because you're a
Yeah.
girl. Oh, this partner wants to just like take it out on you because you're a woman or whatever. I mean, there's just so many people still out there who do have that,
Yeah.
but it's changing. And I think, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of heat for those comments. I don't take it personally.
Hmm.
I'm not, somebody who's easily offended by it. And I would like to just say thank you for at least he did say like he would never sign a bill or petition or anything that would prohibit women from doing it. He
Yeah.
just personally sounded like he just doesn't feel very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
What I suggest for him is try to get comfortable with it because you've got a job to do. And I think that he should sit down and have some heart to hearts with some females and try to understand where these women are coming from. And you would think, as a black man who I'm sure has had some major adversities and
Sure.
people not, giving him some injustices along the way, like maybe he could kind of like just kind of associate that, hey, I've hit these roadblocks with people who are closed-minded because of I'm a black man.
Sure.
Not fair, right? How about associating that with like the roadblocks that women hit because they're women? Like maybe we could just kind of like marry that and like perhaps open his mind because that's what I would like to see happen. I'm okay with it that, he feels the way that he feels and at least he has the balls and the gumption to be honest about it,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I mean, I just think it opens us up for opportunity for change. That's what I really see there. So I'm hoping he will open his mind to that.
Yeah, the other thing, and I don't want to dwell on this forever because there's other things I want to talk to you, especially the stuff you're doing right now. But when I think about the comments, there's a couple of things that jump out to me. First of all, is MMA is one of the few sports, and this is just recently, and you're a humongous part of this. You and your rivalry with Ronda is not only like probably the best female rivalry ever. It's one of the best rivalries in general.
Yeah.
But MMA is one of the sports where the females are just as popular as the men. Like you don't have that in basketball. You don't have that. Like there's tennis, maybe gymnastics. Like there's. I
I
mean,
mean, even the women's soccer team who just, they're a bunch of beasts, badasses. You still don't get
not
it.
the
You're
same.
absolutely right.
It's like one of the few sports. I mean, look at this past year. I know in the UFC, Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Wei Li Zhang was pretty much everybody's fight of the year. Like that doesn't happen in other no one.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. I mean, it's so weird for our sport to see sexism now, not always.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one more
Yeah.
question before we move on, because I know you talked about you were there during the rise of Gina Carano, during the rise of during the rise of Strikeforce that made such an impact. So you faced the sexism, and obviously you faced so many of it. Do you have one example that really stands out to you over all the years?
Oh, one example. I mean, I would think honestly the most prime example that I could do was before I was even a fighter. It was when I started wrestling. When I
Okay.
was when I was a wrestler in high school, I mean, that was as clear cut, dry, clean, and really kind of prepped me for what I was going to experience along the way and all the little hiccups and speed bumps. Is like, I went out for the wrestling team, and it was not the cool thing to do. Like, being a
No.
woman on a male wrestling team was like, no, that was not acceptable. It was not, it was weird. And, people didn't take it serious. And no, the guys were so, physical in the sense, like, they really wanted, it was my best friend and I at the time, Sharon, like, her and I went out, and they really, like, roughed us up. They made practices super, super hard. They wouldn't show us anything, wouldn't teach us. Like, it was really like they kind of all grouped together. And so I guess there have been instances, sure, along my career when you're kind of like, whoa, okay, wow, that was okay, that was pretty sexist. It was pretty rude. But that instance of, like, camaraderie,
Mm-hmm.
that was clearly like the outcast, and the coaches, everybody was like, they just didn't want us there, and so they tried really hard to get us to quit. But I'm telling you, by my senior year, having stuck it out, like, I actually, on a team of about 40 guys, 30, 40, I won the coaches award, which is like only
Cool.
one athlete given out, right? So, and
Yeah.
I were good enough to let her because I was wrestling all guys,
Of
so I just
course.
never made, like, enough points, like, no matter how hard I busted my ass, right?
Sure.
Well, but that's an example. That's something that really stands out to me. And that's when I just kind of started to turn off the noise,
Yeah.
and just, I knew if I put my nose to the grindstone, I could prove myself. And I learned that at a very young age. And that's worked for me my entire career. And so, yeah, I mean, and the other example is, like, when I was going to fight Ronda Rousey, and I kept hearing Dana say, like, women will never be in the UFC. And I was like, just wait, but you haven't seen me fight yet. And it
Yeah.
probably sounds now, like, at the time or whatever, maybe it sounded really cocky, but it wasn't at all. It was just that I believed in myself because I knew I had done it before, that I had changed men's perception of what I could do, what I was capable of.
Sure.
Of course, it takes two to tango, so I give a lot of credit to Ronda in that as well. But it turned out that it was our fight that got women into the UFC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's those things that do come up, but
Sure.
if you
Sure.
learn how to handle it a certain way, there's definitely positivity that can be taken from it.
Well, so before we move on, let me ask you this question. So, of those wrestlers that were mean to you, how many
Yeah.
of those wrestlers stood in a stadium with 20,000 people cheering their names?
I don't think any of them.
Yeah. So no, there was only one person on that team that got to have that opportunity, and
Exactly.
it was none of the males. So I wanted to ask you about the Ronda thing, but I want to do a little twist on it. But I want to talk about One Championship for a second. So now you're with One Championship. You made the transition from fighter to promoter. I know that your focus is really on the American market. One's talked about making a big step. Tell me what has been like the biggest reward by becoming a promoter, and what has been the biggest challenge by on the promotion side?
Well, it's definitely it's difficult to switch up gears, right? Because I'm used to being, to be honest, I'm used to what we're doing right now. I'm being interviewed.
Sure.
And being a promoter, it's like it's totally the other way around. Whether I'm sitting down and interviewing fighters, which a lot of times is what I do. I interview the athletes after they win or lose, right? And then I'm on the other side, I'm pushing it out from a totally different angle. So I guess just wrapping my mind around how I can gear myself differently. I'm no longer the athlete. I'm no longer the commodity. I am the one going out there and trying to make change and, do things to promote a promotion that I think, I really believe in. So, I think that's it. If I could sum it up in a nutshell. Yeah. More to it, of course, but I try not to be too long-winded.
Yeah. So one huge thing with One Championship we know is the deal with TNT, and they're gonna have the event TNT One. It's a major thing. Explain to us in America exactly how the TNT deal is going to work and benefit us in America.
Yeah, so this will be the first time that it's prime time. So it's a brand. It's one on TNT.
Yeah.
So it'll be 4 weeks long. Every Wednesday from April 7th to April 28th, have a lot of our big American stars. But the best part, prime time, right? It's actually on U.S. time, which will be incredible because I really feel like the American fan base has never been treated with that, right? It's
Sure.
like for me to wake up and watch the fights, I have to wake up a lot of times at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Yeah.
because they're all, it's a huge business in Asia, has yet to really cater to the U.S. market. So we're being catered to right now. I feel like we get a treat. We get 4 Wednesdays in a row, prime time, starting at 9 p.m., and we get to have fighters like, Eddie Alvarez is fighting on the cards. Demetrius Johnson. He's fighting for a championship actually. Yeah. So that'll be exciting to see if he can capture it again. So they're all amazing opportunities, amazing fighters, and
in DJ's case, he's going for a title above the weight class we used to see him in America. So, I've seen you talk about the UFC, Bellator, all these other organizations, and saying you don't feel that their competition, being that you guys are predominantly the Asian market, but now coming into the American market, are you starting to see them as competition?
Well, let me just say I'm so excited. I'm really excited for One Championship to make this splash in the U.S. and I think it will, send kind of ripples and sound waves. And look, I follow Chatri's lead, and I really feel like Chatri is our founder and CEO for people who don't know, right? Yeah. But he's never described it like competition. The way that Chatri looks at this is like a rising tide makes all the boats.
That's right.
Sail higher. You know what I mean? Like everybody.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
Like healthy competition. Like there's no bad blood. No. Like it's just like we're doing our thing to make the sport better, and we definitely have our own angle, right? We have our own angle. We're all about values, and trying to create stories that really elaborate our heroes, right? So think of like a Rocky movie. This is the best way I can describe it for people who have never watched One Championship. You think of Rocky movie, right? And you just fall in love with Rocky because he's got this story, he's young, hungry, he's in a freezer punching meat, you know what I mean? He's just like, doesn't have all the specialties. It doesn't have like a lot, but he has a dream, right? And that's the story of these athletes. Like a lot of them, they come from economically deprived, from the bottom rungs of society. And it's like, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to change their families' lives and follow a dream. And I love that. I love the storyline. I love that we're about positive change, like role models, good people out there. Good people can actually choose to punch people in the face for a living.
Right. I say this all the time.
Mind blowing, right?
People who don't understand the sport, like I explain to people, like, they're not what you think of tough guys. Think of the guy who goes to the bar and looks to get in a fight. No, most MMA people, because they're tough, they don't have to have that ego. They know they can beat up everyone in the bar. They don't have to, I say all the time. And then you talk about Rocky. I mean, you even got the guy from Philadelphia and Eddie Alvarez to play the role.
Exactly, right? We have our real live own Rocky.
So let me ask you this, though. So I 100% understand where you're coming from. You got some good guys, but you know that the Asian market is much different than America. We in America, we love trash talking. I mean, I think about the Super Bowl where the guy gave the peace symbol in front of the other guy's face and how many times that's been tweeted out. And is there anybody currently on the roster that you think that could gratify that side of, the Asian market is all about respect. I know it's a completely different culture, but do you have anybody with that little bit of a chip on their shoulder?
To be honest, I mean, so I'm going to start at Angela Lee. She's pregnant right now, but she's still a champion. And I think, she is a very respectable lady and she's very nice, but rub her the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like she can get a little, she's had her moments. Let's just say that. Like, I definitely think she's somebody, and she's beautiful. She's so, oh my God, she's so talented and so tough.
Sure.
And then there's a couple girls. There's Denise Zamboanga, I also think is somebody who, she's a little feisty. She's not afraid to speak her mind. I think those are two ladies that stand out to me. As far as the men go, there are, but none of them stand out to me as much as these women do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the women are just a little bit more fiery, right? So I'm going to give those two a little bit of credit, or a lot of credit, I should say. They have, they're always going to be respectful. The promotion does not tolerate for people to be hyper disrespectful or hyperbolic. However, there still can be storylines for people. Like people, it doesn't mean you have to like each other, right? Nobody in one championship says that you have to like the other person. So you're allowed to dislike. What you're not going to see, and you're allowed to have rivalries. It's okay. Like it's okay to not like the other person or, speak your mind. That's perfectly okay. What's not okay? Throwing cans out into an audience. Attacking the dolly, like
what could you be referring
okay.
to? What could you possibly be
okay.
referring to? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like but you don't have to be best friends with the person
Sure.
you're fighting. Certainly not like the person.
But it's got to be genuine too. Like you can't push. Like I always said, like if you push someone the wrong way, if you push someone to talk trash, they have to be good at it, and they have to. Like Demetrius Johnson, they always tried push. The UFC tried pushing Demetrius Johnson to be more out there in the public and be more have an edge and try to trash talk with T.J. Dillashaw and this. That was not Demetrius Johnson's personality. It would not come off as genuine.
Yeah.
One thing that happened with you and Ronda is you just, to me, and obviously you know this more than I, just from an outsider watching the Ultimate Fighter show and the interviews and all that.
Yeah.
You're cupcakes. You're sweet. You're the good girl, and she's the, bad reputation girl as she walks down, and she's got the mean face. Which is so
funny because it was like painted the opposite until we went on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes,
and then it was
that's true.
It was like 180.
That's true.
Anyways, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yeah. So I think what you're going with that is like that it was genuine, right? And it was real. Yeah, and it was, but there was a lot of opportunity created, for us to be able to really like shed light on our rivalry, and we had to spend ample amounts of time with each other with the Ultimate Fighter and things like that. I will say, Zhang Jingnan and Angela Lee, they are 1-1 and in the fights. Yeah. Some of the best women's MMA fights I've seen. So, and they do not like each other.
Okay.
They don't.
That could be.
And I think that's why it kind of like made me highlight Angela, because I'm like, but Zhang Jingnan, I mean, she's a savage. She's a beast. And
Angela has those like crazy arm bars from weird positions, so she could play the Ronda role. And Zhang could be the, you get to teach her about the cupcakes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there is some rivalries and some trinkets and treats in there for people who like that. However, I will just say this is a promotion that you could tune in with your children and feel good about it. Yeah. Right? So
especially on
TNT. Like an understanding that you have, and you're like, hey, I can tune this on and not worry about cursing or any like just things like that. Where it's a little more wholesome, a little bit more PG, but still like good fights, and the athletes really bring it.
No Mayhem Miller jumping in the cage and fighting the Diaz brothers.
Right.
A couple more questions. You've been great. We're running out of time, but I got to ask you this. So obviously COVID changes the plans for every organization. Obviously changed the plans for one championship. There's been talk for a long time that one wants to not only be on TV in America, but actually have a show in an arena somewhere. Obviously, I'm assuming you guys want a crowd. You want the American crowd. Nobody knows when that will be. But do you guys have, like, you want 2 years, this is what we want 3 years. Do you guys have, like, a timeline that you're kind of hoping this happens?
No, it was Q4 of 2020, which clearly passed. And that was like, because of COVID. So that's just almost impossible to put a timeline on right now, because we just don't know when borders will be more, we have athletes from all around the world, right? So it gets tricky to try to throw an event that's not your home base and you're bringing athletes from Europe and Asia and So it's kind of really depends on how the world starts to shake out, whether these vaccines start to show, improvement, herd immunity, whatever can kind of slow the rate of transmission and get it a little bit safer, then I think we'll be able to put a better timeline together. But so much depends on that, and it's really out of our control.
Let me ask you another question. So obviously you don't know when, but if Chatri comes to you and says, Miesha, all right, we don't know when, but we need a location, New York City, Boston, LA, where are you pushing? You say this is the spot. Like, the American market, where should it be?
Definitely New York City.
Okay. I think you were going to say Vegas. That's where I figured you would go.
No, yeah, New York City. I mean, Vegas could be, LA could be, but I mean, I'm thinking go big or go home.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
That's why I thought Vegas, but yeah, New York City, obviously. I got the,
Yeah,
I got the
Garden,
Boston,
like
I got the Boston accent, so I want you to come to Boston. But we're always we're always second fiddle to New York. Last question for you, Miesha, and I appreciate you taking time. You've been fantastic. Give me a 30-second sales pitch to someone who doesn't know One Championship and why they should watch.
oh man, pressure's on. Look, some of the best fighters that you will ever see on One Championship, they fight with their whole heart and sleeve. If you love Rocky, if you love that kind of underdog story, if you can get behind that, One Championship will be your jam for sure. We have a higher finish rate than any other organization, and I think, they bring it. And also, it's not just MMA. Like, we have kickboxers who wear 4-ounce gloves, Muay Thai fighters who get in there and mix it up. If you like the striking aspect of it, we have more of that to fit your fancy.
Yeah.
So I think One Championship's where it's at.
And what she didn't tell you is during the first TNT broadcast, she's actually announcing that she's coming out of retirement and fighting for the title. That's actually what's happening. Just kidding. That's just kidding. That's not.
That remains to be seen.
Okay, so maybe we're not kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, she, of course, former Strikeforce champion, former UFC champion, and One Championship vice president, Miesha Tate. Guys, stick around. We're going to be coming right back with Chris Daukaus. All right, guys, we are into our second segment. This is the present segment where we talk about one of the fighters that are just wrecking it in current MMA, one of the people that I think is a star of, the present. The guy I'm going to talk to you right now, he's 2-0 in the UFC with 2 knockouts. He is fighting this Saturday on the main card of UFC Vegas 19, UFC Blades, Lewis, whatever you want to call it. He's taken on a veteran of the sport, someone that is well known, Alexey Oleynik. He is, of course, Chris Daukaus. Chris, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. I know you're really busy. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Of course.
When I think about busy, like, you're not just one of these guys who puts 40 hours a week in the gym. You're also putting 40-plus hours as a police officer in one of the toughest cities in America. We always hear about Philadelphia. I mean, it's the city of fighters. I mean, the legends of from boxing and MMA, and then you're a police officer, so you got to deal with the toughest, baddest people. Tell me, how do you balance, being obviously a high-level athlete. You're an elite athlete. You're fighting at the highest level, but also the rigors of being a police officer.
You just have to kind of compartmentalize. When I'm at work, I focus on, making sure that I get home safe. I get my partner home safe. Anyone I interact, I get home safe. And then once I leave that job, I kind of leave that job. Then I go straight to training mode. If, I'm going to the strength and conditioning, or I'm going to a striking class, whatever it is, I'm just going there, and I have to focus on that solely because that at that point, that is my job. And that's what I need to do to get better.
Yeah. So police officers there's a brotherhood with that. It's a very unique profession than other people. People don't, unless you've done it, you really can't understand it. So just tell me about the support you get from the fellow, officers when you fight or when you get ready to fight.
Yeah, it's great, especially my partner. Just being with him. I've been with him for close to 2 years now, close to 2.5 years. And when I get into fight camp and everything like that, I have to start changing my diet up. So I have to start bringing food, and he's kind of, he's the same way with me. He's going to be suffering along with me when I'm eating salads and chicken breasts instead of pizza and whatever else that we have to eat. But just the support from just the squad is awesome. You get people who are ragging on you, of course. That's the nature of the beast. But I wouldn't have it any other way, and I love the support that I get from everyone.
Yeah. So the one thing I always think about, like, I think about Stipe Miocic. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. Mm-hmm. Obviously, someone that's probably on your radar, being in the same division. He's a fireman. It's obviously another extremely tough job. He puts his life on the line for complete strangers.
Yeah.
He never wanted to leave. Like, he has raised to the point where he could leave. I mean, he's the baddest, the title of the baddest dude on the planet. Yep. Same situation. You're the champion one day, or you're at that point, where you're making some serious money. Would you ever leave the department?
Yeah. And it's nothing as far as I'm tired of doing the job. It's just strictly, I just want to focus on fighting. And then when I'm not focused on fighting, I want to focus my time and energy at home with my family. Like,
sure.
I've been with my wife since before I started fighting. I took my first fight a week before I went to the police academy. So
Okay.
it's always been me doing, realistically 2 careers. And, it's just coming up on 10 years now, 10 years for being a police officer. And then I took, like I said, I took my first fight a week before that. So I think that she deserves some me time. And
Sure.
then especially with having my son, I definitely deserve some time off from the police department. But there's always like the way that it works with, being certified and everything like that. I have that. If I leave in July of this year, that'll be 10 years. So then I'll have 1 full calendar year to return before all my certifications and everything. So if I don't like it, I just go back to work. So, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I give you credit for just balancing that, those 2 schedules. Yeah. So let's talk about you're now in the UFC. The same question I always like to ask everyone when they've kind of just started getting the UFC. You have 2 fights under your belt now. Have you gotten any more attention in your regular life? Are people starting to recognize you before that? When you were just fighting on the regional scene.
You get like the hardcore dudes who would recognize you. People who they'd be like, oh, I seen you fight CFFC or wherever, like Art of War, little regional shows around here. But as of now, I haven't really been recognized. I guess because with everything with the mask on and everything like that. So I guess it's kind of good, and I'm really happy that no one at work has really recognized me, like the people I interact with, as far as that. But I mean, it's cool with family members and other police officers reaching out. Like people from like Baltimore and Chicago are reaching out. So it's really cool to see the support and to get recognized a little bit.
Yeah. So before I talk about your 2 UFC fights, I actually want to talk about your second one. And what really stood out to me, we do the recap show with Ben Duffy. The first thing I did about him was like, holy crap, like Chris Daukaus looked really fit. I think you weighted 15 pounds lighter or 14 pounds lighter. Yeah. I think you made a joke in the post-fight that you had abs.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Heavyweight's a weird thing. Like a lot of heavyweights want to bulk up. They want to be the biggest, and some guys want to be the speed. So is that the route you're going? Do you want to be the leaner guy and the quicker guy? Is that
Yeah. I just want to be able to I feel better when I'm small, like smaller, like more in shape, obviously. So I feel like I'm faster. I even feel like I hit harder. I feel like I have more power in all my strikes, and then just being able to run circles around certain people. So that's just pretty much the game plan, and that's what I plan on doing this Saturday. So.
Do you have an ideal like weight? Like I want to be 220. I want to be 222. I want to be like. Because you want to balance you want to balance the power. You don't want to be too small. Going against Derek Lewis, who's outweighing you by 50 pounds. But
correct.
You also don't want to be too sluggish and heavy. Do you have a certain weight? Have you found it yet?
Not really. No, I'm still like my first UFC fight I weighed in like 241, 242. The second one I was 227. That wasn't planned. Yeah, that was not planned. I definitely think that the flight and then the time difference messed my whole body up. Like I would get done working out. So I had a fight at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, Abu Dhabi time, local time.
Yeah.
So I was staying up all night long, and then during the day I was trying to sleep, like during their time. But then I also had media obligations and other obligations with the UFC. So I wasn't sleeping that good. My body started shutting down a little bit. And then after my workouts or like before my workouts, I'd be sitting there trying to eat. And my body was just like, no, we're not eating. So it wasn't planned on coming in that light. Like I plan on coming into this fight probably like 235, like 233 area. And that's what I plan on coming in on my last fight. So we'll see how that goes. And then, realistically, if this fight goes great, I'm probably going to stay right around this little spot right here.
So let's talk about your 2 fights. You made your debut. You face Parker Porter. You probably can tell by my accent. I'm from Southern New England. Parker Porter is a guy that I've seen on my regional scene many times. When I did the preview, when I went through the preview, I'm like, I like Parker Porter. I met him a million times. Extremely nice guy. So I'm very familiar with him. He's a tough veteran. You also went against Rodrigo Nascimento, a guy that was undefeated. He had a lot of hype. You steamrolled both of those guys. Got 2 first-round knockouts. When you dreamt about, the years of dreaming about your UFC debut or just your early run, like, could you have pictured it any perfect than how you started your UFC career?
No. I mean, granted, you always want these things to happen like that. You want to go in there, you want to just run through everyone, but the chances of that happen are slim to none, especially in the UFC. And it's actually happened, so it's really great. I didn't plan on that to happen, and like, especially with the Parker Porter fight, I knew that dude's tough. Like, he's just a tough dude. I was expecting like a 3-round war with him. Yeah. And then Nascimento, I certainly wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to touch him because I just felt like he couldn't take it. And once we got in that first little exchange and he started backing up, I was like, nah.
You just knew.
No. Yeah, and you talk to any other fighter, you see little nuances that, you throw a 1-2 and then if they miss and then the fighter's like, oh, God, oh, no, I got to do something about this. And he had that look on his face, and I just capitalized on that. So, yeah, like those 2 fights couldn't have gone any better.
It's got to also boost your confidence. Like, I've talked to fighters in the past, and a lot more times you get this off the record where I've talked to someone after their debut, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I was nervous. I've always thought I was UFC level, but then I started, that little, you're a human being, a little doubt,
of course,
like that's gonna build your confidence that, 2 UFC fights and 2 knockouts, like you got to be feeling really good."
Yeah, and to go back to the whole confidence thing, like everyone has those doubts. Am I ready? Am I supposed to be here? And that's just part of being a fighter. Like, that's just part of just everyday life. Like, you just have to be able to deal with that, put that to the side, and just handle the task at hand. And I've been able to do that, and I plan on doing that this week.
Yeah. So I watched your last fight in the post fight interview during media application afterwards. You were asked, like, what do you want next? And you were like, oh, I want to take some time off. I'm not going to call it by name. And then suddenly now you're fighting Alexey Oleynik. I mean, this guy's ranked top 10 in the UFC rankings. He's headlined UFC cards. I mean, he's got 3 trillion fights under his record. Like, is this like? Did you want this high of? And obviously, you're confident. You think you're going to win. But I mean, like, I shouldn't say you want. Did you expect like an Alexey Oleynik next?
No, I honestly didn't expect a ranked opponent, and I didn't expect this high of a ranking this quickly. I was expecting maybe like another, guy that they signed maybe off the Contender Series or something like that.
Sure.
But no, I'm totally fine with it. This week it's a challenge that I plan on meeting head on, and I plan on, taking this challenge and running with it. Like, there's no way that I'm going to let this slip through my fingers. So it's going to be a good one.
So when you think about Alexey Oleynik, obviously the submission threat, how do you feel about the matchup? Are you looking at this as a striker versus grappler? I mean, I know you're a black belt yourself, or like, how are you viewing this? And how do you feel you match up?
On the outside, it's a traditional striker versus grappler matchup. In his most recent fights, he's gotten more, I guess, carefree with his hands. He's been able to stand with certain people, like Verdum, Reem, and then I think he was even trying to stand with like Walt Harris and all them guys.
That didn't work out for him.
So it definitely didn't work out for him. So I don't know if he's planning on doing the same thing, or if he's planning on doing what he did to Verdum and pushing him up against the cage, trying to beat the body up, and then go for the takedown. But that's pretty much what I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to come out to push the pace. He pushes the pace for the first round to try and get everyone, to break so that he can get that easy takedown. He can get that scarf hold and he can choke you out. He's going to, if he tries doing that to me, he's going to have a really tough time. He's going to have a really tough time getting me down, and he's going to have a really tough time getting me tired. Yeah. I guarantee you that. So good luck. So, that's all I can say is good luck to that.
Yeah. So I know you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Like, how confident are you if it goes to the ground?
Absolutely. I'm 1,000% confident that I can hang with that dude. There's no reason why I can't hang with him.
Okay.
There's absolutely none. I mean, this isn't the IBJJFs and in gi competition. This is a fight. This is an MMA fight. We get on the ground. I'm going to make it dirty. Don't be surprised if I'm throwing submissions up, and don't be surprised if I catch him. That's what a lot of people, they don't see. They automatically think, like, if I don't keep this on the feet, that the fight's over. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
So now, when I think about Alexey Oleynik, and obviously the submission threat, the first thing that always jumps out, he's not only a submission threat, but he's like this one, and I don't mean this as an insult, I mean this as a compliment. Yeah. He's got this one trick pony that, like, gets so many people, and that's that Ezekiel choke. It's something that, as you mentioned in your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championships, you don't really see it. You go to your BJJ. I go to BJJ class down the street. You don't see the Ezekiel choke. So my question is, how much have you been training to defend that? And, like, is it hard to find training partners who knows the submission well enough to kind of get it on you?
No, and not really. I mean, I have, like, a core group of guys. I have, like, a core group of higher level black belts and brown belts who I'm always rolling with, both in no gi and gi, and they know all these moves in and out. So it's nothing new that I haven't seen before. I mean, when I was a blue belt, I had this guy who was a purple belt at the time, who that's all he would do was just the Ezekiel chokes from all kinds of crazy different angles. And it's the same thing. It's just, at a higher level now. So the people who I train with are no slouches on the ground. They know exactly the intimate details of these kinds of chokes, and it's something that you plan on, but you can't get focused on that. You can't get completely focused on something that your opponent's doing. You have to, be confident in your game, and you have to be able to enforce that game upon your opponent and make him make adjustments. Don't react to your opponent.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard people also say, like, if you have, for Conor McGregor, if facing Conor McGregor, he's always known for that left hand. If you watch your left hand, suddenly you're getting hit with the right hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I totally understand where you're coming for that. So, obviously, you expect to win. You're facing the top 10 guy. Now, I know some fighters that have it all planned out. Okay, I'm going to fight top 10 guy, then I'm fighting a top 5 guy, then I'm fighting number 1 contender, then I'm fighting the title. Like, do you have a plan like that, or is it just, like, whatever?
No. Realistically, get past Oleynik this week, and then it's kind of I just want to go off from there. It doesn't matter to me who I fight next. I would ideally like to have a ranked guy above him, obviously, just to keep climbing that ladder. And then, I just want to fight another, probably, no injuries, no major, if nothing crazy happens, another 3 or 4 times this year. And then hopefully by the end of the year, be in, top 3, top 2, if not in that number 1 contender spot, so that early next year I can start and be ready for that title shot.
Yeah. Let's talk about, so you made big improvements. Like, when you made your UFC debut, I was like, whoa, look at Chris Daukaus. Like, wow, this is great. And then you had the second one, I was like, whoa, like, Chris is knocking dudes out. Yeah. What would you? What would we say is going to be the biggest improvement from that fight to, like, this one? Like, what am I going to, like, when I'm doing my recap show, what am I saying about you? I'm like, wow, what, this stands out. Like, what's the improvement?
Just the composure, I guess. I guess realistically, you could say if this fight gets to the cage or the ground, just that facet of the game, just because no one's really seen that, in my last couple fights in the UFC. So, I mean, I'll be able to defend the takedown. Might take him down. Might start throwing some submissions up. You never know. So it'll definitely give you guys something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you out-grapple Alexey Oleynik, and don't take this as I'm doubting you, but if you out-grapple
him, of course,
this is going to open up so many people's eyes to your game. Yeah. So, I get, like, there's a great opportunity for you.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, when I also think about you, I think about, obviously, you have your brother. Your brother also fights in the UFC. I've seen brothers that, like, their dream is to have family members or I know we've had husband and wives, like, wanting to fight on the same card, and then you had the ones who don't. And I know your brother's already booked for April, but is that something you guys want to do? Do you guys want to fight on the same card, or is it, like, that too much, like, get one person ready, then get the other one ready kind of thing?
No, it's realistically, it is what it is. We fought on the same card regionally, like, a couple years ago. So if we have to do it, it's nothing new to us. Realistically, it would just be better because if we didn't fight on the same card, just so that we can be in each other's corners, and then depending on when our fights are scheduled during the lineup, because I don't want to be right after, like, if we both fight on the same card, I don't want to be fight number 7 and he'd be fight number 8.
Yeah.
There's no time. There's no time for our coaches to be running back and forth. There's no time for me or him to be running back and forth.
Yeah.
To be getting into the corner. But it'd be cool to headline with him. Like if he's the main event and I'll be the co-main event, or vice versa, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be something really cool. But yeah, besides that, no, I mean we've done it before, so it's nothing new. And if the UFC wants to do that, I'm totally down with it.
Cool. We're running out of time. I appreciate you giving time. The last question I always ask people who are fighting is, all the gamblers, they're going to want to know how they can make money on you. So give me your official prediction. How do you win the fight?
Oh, first round TKO. So, I think I'm the favorite anyway. So
okay,
you're gonna have to be spending a little bit of money, which is a little weird to be going up against a top 10, top 12 guy, and I'm not even ranked, and I'm the favorite. So it's a little crazy.
All right, sorry, I said I was going to show us. Do you like that? Do you like me? Because I know some people like the opposite. Like some people like the motivation of being an underdog and having that chip on their shoulder, kind of.
Yeah, I mean that's just something I enjoy having. I enjoy having like that underdog thing. Because realistically, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, I have a full-time job. I have a career outside of this. Like, people could say, "Oh, he's just doing this for fun." Like, I'm not supposed to be here. But beat me, and prove that I'm not supposed to be here. Because I'm just going to keep beating people's asses to prove that I'm supposed to be here while working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So
why do I feel like I remember something about some guy fighting at heavyweight from Philadelphia who was an underdog? Like, God, why do I feel like that worked out in the past? I don't know why.
It's definitely worked out in the past, and it'll definitely work out this week, and then in my future upcoming fights.
Excellent. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're a great guy. I wish you good luck this weekend, and also more importantly, please be safe when you're out in the streets.
Same to you. Thank you very much. Man. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, we'll be right back. We got one more segment. Please stick around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our last guest, Chris Daukaus. We move on to a new guest. This girl is only 16 years old. It's absolutely incredible that she's making her professional MMA debut at One Championship Fist of Fury in Singapore on February 26th, when she takes on Sune Sursen. I hope I didn't butcher the Thai fighter's name. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria Lee. Victoria, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So first of all, thanks for coming on. Right away, there's a lot of buzz about you. You're only 16 years old. You're the younger sister of both Christian and Angela Lee, who are both champions in the organization. So we've seen how they've wrecked it on the scene. Tell us about you. Like, I know you got very high credentials in grappling, you have very high credentials in wrestling, but someone who doesn't know you, just tell us about yourself.
I am lucky enough to train in the best gym in the world, United MMA. I get to train with my brother and sister, who are both world champions. And I myself am a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I held national and world titles in pancration.
All right. So when I hear your name, you're making your debut in One Championship. The thing that obviously is unique about it is most people don't make their debut in such a big, prestigious organization. Usually they, start at some regional scene, or they have some amateur fights. Like, why did you decide to jump right to pro, and why did you decide to jump right to like a major organization like One Championship?
Well, it's always been my dream to compete as a professional fighter for One Championship. And it wasn't in the plan originally to jump straight in, but when this amazing opportunity was presented, the timing was perfect and I could not turn it down.
Okay. No, you're coming in some high expectations. That's obviously, it's a little unfair to get thrown on you based on your brother and your sister. I think your sister was a champion at, I think she was 19 or 20. Your brother's very young too. I think he was like 20 or 21. Do you feel extra pressure coming in based on, what your brother and sister have done? Or is it the opposite, because you come from the same family, you've been training for years, that it's a confidence boost to you because you've seen what they've been able to do?
I don't feel pressured by them at all. They're my role models, so being able to train, I'm so lucky to be able to train with them every day and watch their hard work and dedication. So it's more of a confidence booster for me.
Sure. So tell us, what have you learned from them? Like, not obviously, I'm not talking about, technique. Like I learned arm bar or this. I mean, what have you learned just, being a professional? Like, what have they given you advice on that's going to help you in your career?
They've given me so much valuable advice over the years, and especially that they've been competing professionally at such a young age. They've always taught me to just, ride the wave of ups and downs, enjoy the entire process, and just have fun with it.
Okay. Now let's talk about your opponent. Your opponent's 4-1. She's already got wins in one championship. Her name is Sunese Sursin. I apologize again if I say her name wrong. I believe I have it correct. What do you know about her? I know she's a kind of has a Muay Thai style. Like, what do you know about her, and why do you think that was a good matchup? I mean, this girl's good. Like, why did you pick her, or why did you think you guys got matched up?
I've watched both her amateur and professional fights, and she's a very tough opponent. She's aggressive striker, and her strength is definitely her strong judo. And I do feel, although those are her strengths, I do feel that our styles match up, and it's going to be an exciting match.
Okay. Where do you think you have the best advantage on her?
I believe that with the training that I received at our gym, that my skills are deeper in every area of the game.
Okay. Now, I have a daughter that's 11 years old. Like, I can't imagine my daughter fighting in one championship 5 years from now. Like, you're setting, crazy precedents. That said, there obviously going to be a lot of people that have issues with it. If I'm being honest, I don't know how I feel about it. What do you say to the critics that say you're too young, and not saying, and I think a lot of the critics not saying that you can't compete, because I mean, all you got to look at your credentials. It's just that, like, you're 16, like you should be hanging with friends, you should be, doing that stuff. What do you say to those critics who say you shouldn't be allowed to fight?
Well, I first of all, I try not to pay attention to the doubters and the haters right now, because that negativity just, I'm focusing on my fight. But I believe that skill and age don't coincide.
Of
I
course.
believe that if you want to be a professional, and if there are haters around, that it's up to your skills to back it up, not your age.
Sure. And I get you. I don't want you to think people are doubting you or people are hating on you. I think it's more just of a concern. Like, I don't think anybody wants to see you do bad. Like, I don't think anybody hates. Like, personally, I don't want to see you do bad. I would never want a 16-year-old girl to do bad. I want you to succeed. I want you to win the championship. I think it'd be incredible. But you can understand how some people would be concerned, right?
Hello?
Yep. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
sorry. I thought you kind of froze a little bit. But yeah, um, I do see how it can be surprising to most people, especially those who aren't familiar with the sport. However, there are many kids in other sports like Muay Thai kids who start being professional Muay Thai athletes at like 10 years old. And I believe that it's not up to other people to determine what they can and cannot do, that it's up for them and their teams and their families to decide. So that's what I'm doing.
Sure. Who do you think is your biggest supporters? Like, is there someone in your family that's really just really supporting you more than everybody?
My whole entire family supports me. My parents, all of my siblings, my grandparents. I'm so lucky to have a really strong support system back home.
How about who's going to be most nervous when you go in? Like, I'm assuming you get nervous when you see your brother or sister fight. Like, who do you think in your family would be most nervous when you're fighting?
That's it. Maybe my grandparents.
Yeah,
I would say my grandparents, yeah.
yeah. So talk about, obviously you have a very close knit family. You've been grown up training in all the different martial arts. What do you do? What else do you do for fun? Like what's your hobbies? What do you do outside of fighting?
Outside of training, I love to cook and
Okay.
bake. Like, well, right now I'm only cooking healthy recipes because of dieting, but outside of fight camp, I love to cook desserts
All right.
and spend time with my dogs and my family. And when I get a chance, I like to go to the beach.
All right. What's your go-to dessert that you like, if you want to impress somebody, you can only pick one dessert. What are you making?
Oh, before I entered fight camp and started dieting, I started making these mochi donuts, and
All
that's
right.
my favorite right now. That's what I'm craving.
All right. So make sure after the fight that you make yourself one of those donuts as a reward for all your hard work. Uh,
Definitely.
my last question for you, people always like to bet and they want to know, what do you predict will be the outcome of your fight? Besides a win, like do you get a submission? Do you get a second round? Like what do you think is going to happen?
I think that it's going to be a very fast-paced match and that it's going to end in the first round.
Excellent. There you guys have it. I just spoke to Victoria Lee. She's making an incredible debut, only 16 years old. I give her a lot of credit. Guys, I want to thank all three of our guests. They were spectacular. This is MMA Past, Present, and Future. We'll be back next week with a star-studded lineup once again. See you then.